On today's MotA-Apes, we'll see if we can get through this week if Todd's finished all his notes.
Bite me.
Take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty ape! Exercise with an ape maker, human down. It talks. We are the keepers of the divine bound. It is our only reason for survival. We are determined to know what the apes want, war or peace. The only good human is a dead human!
Hello and welcome to Minute of the Apes, the daily podcast where we break down every minute of the Planet of the Apes movies, 1 minute at a time. I'm Todd. That was Sean.
Hey.
And what's your name, sir?
My name is Jose.
Jose, it is so good to have you on this show. You know, if I actually see Richard, could you tell him we'd love to have him back at some time? Oh, it is you. I'm so sorry.
Surprise.
That was really bad comedy. It's minute 61. It's Monday. Man, we're about to head in some juicy minutes over the next couple of weeks, you know it?
I mean, considering we only have 37 minutes to go, it's time to get juicy.
Yeah, we're really about to turn it up. So, Sean, why don't you tell us what's going on with minute 61?
All right, we start minute 61 with Zero saying, "You can't make a dead man's knee jump," and ends with Hasline calling the orderly.
All right, let's take a listen to minute 61 of Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
You can't make a dead man's knee jump any more than you can test a corpse's reaction to a prefrontal lobotomy.
Mean you were advanced enough to perform experimental brain surgery on living humans?
Oh, yes. We even tried to stimulate their atrophied speech centers.
Did you try to stimulate Colonel Taylor's speech centers?
Of course not. He could talk already.
When you left, was Colonel Taylor still alive?
We loved Taylor. We did all we could to help him, Cornelius and I. Cornelius?
She should have a nap now. She'll get it. Orderly.
As minute 61, we have a planet's worth of humans, plus 2 living apes, 1 who's pregnant, and 1 dead ape.
So we start the week with Zero still truth serumed up.
Yeah.
She's really about to divulge a crap ton of information. And finally, to set the moment, our interrogators get to the questions I think that we, as a threesome, boy, that comes out wrong when I say that.
A thruple.
A thruple. We, as podcasters, had hoped for previously. We thought that would be the thing that they go for right away. So right away, we get into what did you do with your patients?
Yes.
And right away, we get a sepia-tone Landon that we kind of look at.
With the scar on his head, the shaved spot.
Yeah, but once again, they've set this idea that we're going to have Zero at least have visual reminders and done in a sepia tone. Yeah, to really kind of help the person who probably doesn't maybe know deeply. And again, these films, you're not going to watch them, dissect them the way you can now. You know,
in some ways, this is kind of like the Return of the Jedi, where they're giving you things in the last part of the movie that they should have set up in the first one. You know, you get the Emperor's Force Lightning, which is a new power that we've never seen before, that shows up at the end of the movie. If we're going to have flashbacks to previous characters, shouldn't that have been happening like during the testimony when they're asking about Taylor and stuff like that?
Well, I think that we even kind of suggested that maybe when we talked about it, not so much that I know one of us suggested that wouldn't it seem apropos in that kind of conversation if they actually had a projection screen when the council's talking.
Slides of them or whatever.
Yeah, that shows, did you know this person? You may not have known him as Taylor, but did you know this person? And I think that if they'd done that, maybe to your point, that would have at least set this up. However, I don't think this is jarring enough to make it not work. I think that the sepia cuts are pretty damn cool. It's a great way to convey what we know to remind us that maybe she's skating around an issue.
Well, there's actually a little bit more in the script in terms of what she goes into that she divulges that's not in the actual edit.
Yep.
She does, in fact, mention the prefrontal lobotomy. I do want to mention, we talk about these sepia cuts. They kind of remind me a little bit of Beneath, when they would have the when the mutants would project things that were happening on the screen. So to me, they were a small callback to that with just a slightly different tone to them. Even though you're right, we probably should have seen elements of them earlier in this particular film, what they're going to do referencing back. I love that the agent goes right in and says, did you stimulate Colonel Taylor's speech centers? I mean, he goes right in.
Yeah.
Right. We get the flashback with, the prefrontal lobotomy, which is actually kind of a confirmation of what they were doing. I don't think they ever stated that it was lobotomy in the first movie.
They didn't. And I also, that brought to my mind that when we start, oh God, in my family, the statement in my mind is such a joke that I realized, should my wife or daughter listen, they just laughed at me right now. The horror of frontal lobotomy actually had stopped. The last recorded to this point had been 1967. So I wonder just how vastly shocking to imply that they were doing that.
Still in the consciousness of the.
It was there, but there had been so many people pushing back that you're not doing anything productive. You are mutilating these people. So that's pretty shocking, these people. And everything I researched has said that it had been widely put out there how horrible it was. The lobotomies didn't come back into practice until the mid-90s, at which point it's not so much a cutting of the brain as much as a searing of centers that they knew for like what I read, and it was in a psychological type journal, was you're just touching one area where maybe these people have horrific seizures and they're trying to abate that, but that was the only reason that they could find to do anything like that.
Still seems like a pretty traumatic,
doesn't it,
of an operation to move in for any reason whatsoever.
It's pretty terrifying,
and sear any part of the brain just to get some result. I mean, removing tumors is one thing, but altering somebody's
personality.
Exactly. Potentially, that's kind of shocking. So I guess the horseshoe image, were we supposed to pick that up? That's what a lobotomy looks like? Because I thought it was through the temples more than anything else.
I think that the film, pretty quickly tried to just say that their ideal of a lobotomy was to open up an area,
head, take out a piece of
bring
brain.
It that way. Exactly. Yeah.
Because if you just make a little incision mark around the temple, that might just look like a pimple. The temple and pimple. But if I make a horseshoe type thing, there was
obviously some type of surgery that did something.
Well, I mean, and
it's a little artistic license with it, maybe.
Back in the 70s, the technology is not where it was today for medical surgery. And, my wife had stuff done on her head, and she still had to have a big, almost horseshoe thing on her head.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that.
So that, we haven't gone that far ahead in technology.
So when they reference Colonel Taylor in this way, forgive me if I've forgotten, but up to this point, she did not acknowledge knowing Taylor, correct?
Correct. She hasn't said anything about knowing him. She's kind of skirted around and denied it. She actually said no, I think, in the last scene when they were being interrogated, right?
So this subversive nature with which he asked the question, should that not have elicited a response from Hasline that kind of, maybe he's looking down as he listens, and then just to look up like, oh, now we've got her. Now she's acknowledged it. And it just seems very blasé the way that they respond to it.
So, Agent One, who gets just these beautifully lit moments, as he's kind of moving in, kind of being, movie star-esque with that kind of lighting on him. Did you stimulate Colonel Taylor's speech centers? And then Zira says, of course not. He could talk already. And it jumps then from the next moment to, when you left, was Colonel Taylor still alive? We love Taylor, right? That's how the movement goes.
Yeah. Brent can eat it, but Taylor, we love.
Sucks it, man.
So there's a moment here that goes a little bit deeper. After she says, "Of course not," he could talk already, which was kind of nice. They're getting this thing about Colonel Taylor being alive and talking. I mean, that's big movement. I would have continued to press on, well, where's Colonel Taylor now?
Yeah.
I would have wanted to hear more of that. But what she does offer is Agent 1 or E1 says Colonel Taylor had colleagues. So he was trying to delve a little bit further about who was Colonel Taylor alone. Right. Clearly, she's now admitting that she knows Taylor. She goes, yes, there was one who was somehow died before we found out he could talk. He had possessed unique skin. We had it stuffed and put in our museum like the gorilla I saw in yours.
Whoa, hang on.
So they're talking about Dodge.
Okay. Yeah. I get it now, but that seems.
Agent 1 goes unique, and Zero goes skin. It was black.
Yeah, which we had brought up in the previous movie. That maybe that's the reason they put them in the.
Hassline says.
Right.
Hassline then goes Lieutenant Dodge, and until we came here, we'd never seen that before.
Okay. Then
he comes back to, and when you left, was Colonel Taylor still alive?
Okay, and then we.
If we just take the scene itself, all they can care about is Colonel Taylor.
Yes.
Right? They're not mentioning about the other colleagues. Even when they do bring up the colleagues, all Dane wanted to convey was that there was something different about Dodge because his skin was black. And there's no talk about anybody else. It goes right back to Taylor again. So the commentary being made was not about the safety and concern for the other colleagues. The comment was being made about Dodge's skin color.
Right. But this all feeds back to why does this government have a love affair with Taylor so much more than anybody else within the system?
Right.
Was he considered to be the atom, to propagate the species
Well, that's what Stewart's job was, remember?
Well,
she
but
was
I thought
be the breeder.
I thought all three men were going to get to. God, that's so disgusting to put it that way.
I should also mention just real quick, there was a small exchange where Lewis, that was cut out where Lewis says they basically have about 2 more minutes before she wakes up from her
injection.
I keep wanting to say fentanyl, but it's not fentanyl. What is it? It's
phenobarbital.
Yeah.
Right.
So that sudden moment where she kind of becomes alert, Lewis had alerted them in this cut moment where he said she has about 2 more minutes before she wakes up.
Well, and then, but even before that, we loved Taylor, and I will be damned if we don't get some injection of some monkey love again. There is Zira's thing. She loves her human.
But we had speculated on it in the first movie. Dane is basically saying, she was saying. In fact, there's some more direction in later minutes that I think will be relevant to that moment as well that I won't talk about right now.
When they asked, did you stimulate Colonel Taylor's speech center? Well, I stimulated something. It wasn't a speech center.
Gross.
Hey, I'm not the one kissing a monkey.
But but you had to point it out in that way.
There is this. So, where do you have the scene ending, or where do you have this ending at a moment?
I have it.
Isn't it right around the nap time area?
It ends with Hassline calling in the orderly.
Okay, so taken in this moment, all they care about is Colonel Taylor.
Right.
They got some information that she performed prefrontal lobotomies, that she dissected live humans to get responses from them. Once Zira says, we did all we could to help him, Cornelius and I, and she wakes up, that to me is, even though she wakes up, that to me is not the end of the interrogation. I would want to continue on with this conversation and find out more about where our astronauts are.
Right.
Is Taylor alive? Like, it was nothing is ever really definitively said about this other than what Zira did. All we're getting is that Taylor was there and Zira did perform experiments. That's all we get out of this.
It feeds back into that. So many things are so great about the script and the way that you're trying to insert them in a world, and questions are had about it, but the line of questioning never makes sense from the government as a whole. And then Hassline should have his agenda where he's trying to push his questions, and there's never a through agenda of anything. That's just this haphazard bit of information.
And we'll probably talk about this on Wednesday or Thursday when we get to a couple of minutes. But that's what was so frustrating about this, is we don't spend enough time finding out answers or finding out where these people are that would be necessary, the government would want to know, other than just kind of, how terrible Zira seems to have been because she performed a prefrontal lobotomy and experimented on live humans. Right. Maybe that's all Hassline wants to get out of it. Maybe he doesn't want to know where the astronauts are. Maybe he doesn't want to, he wants something to indict Zira.
Yeah. I think that.
But as an audience, I need something a little bit more.
And that's the problem. Hassline may have his motivations that we haven't spoken of yet, and you can do that. But as an audience, I don't feel, watching it minute by minute, that there's clarity to what is occurring and why they're doing what they're doing. Now, the last question I have to ask as we wrap up this minute, though, is the nap time reference to when you're on True Serum, do you need a nap afterwards, or is that a weak female?
I
comment.
Honestly, whenever I saw it, when they go, she should have a nap now. She'll get it. I wanted to see Hasline give her a karate chop to the neck at 70s. She's asleep now.
Well, let me go. Let me go back and look at that thing. I think that scene. It's a couple of pages earlier where they cut the